This is the Oz report for February 26, 2024. Oddly, it's a Monday today. And we're going to jump in with an overview of the market because there's some sections I want to mention before we jump into Plex and Plex adjacent items. First of all, I want to mention raw moon materials, because they are up almost 5%. And that is a market that is over 300 billion traded each day. If with advanced moon materials adding another 150 billion a day, this is massive, and that being up 5% is a huge thing. If you look at it in detail, for example, ferrogel is up 31%, promethium is up 25%, non-linear metamaterials are up 14%, hafnium is up 13%, evaporite deposits are up 10%. For hafnium, at least, I know there was a discussion going on in our Discord server whether that was related to the Southeastern Agreement ending, because last time that ended, or last time there was similar times in the Southeast, we did see hafnium spike, and so at least that one's there. Everything else, seriously, is up to added production. There's production going on in EVE Online. And people are buying moon materials, and JITA especially is feeling it. There's significant chunks of moon materials being bought out of the markets, and that's typically a good thing to see. I already see somebody in chat saying inflation. I wouldn't necessarily, by definition, yes, prices are rising, but overall, moon materials are something that is fairly easily replenished. So really right now, this is just a good sign of production prices rising. If we move on, we see that also ancient salvage is up 3.5%. So ancient salvage is tied to T3 production, strategic cruisers like the Tengu, or tactical destroyers like the Jackdaw. And that comes from sleeper Womble sites, and typically that also it goes quite cyclically, because also, yes, can be a bottleneck sometimes in tier 3 production. It's not as abundant, and so often when we see increased demand for especially strategic cruisers like we have seen, we'll talk about that in a second, then we see those prices jumping as well. So that's quite significant. Then the next thing that I want to mention on top of the report is skill injectors. Skill injectors are almost up 2%. That is massive, because we're talking about a market that is between 10 and 20% of the overall JITA market. This is huge, all right? This is massive, and skill injectors rising again is something that that just shows how robust the skill point market is, because we saw skill extractors dropping down quite significantly due to the platinum pack sale that was going on a week or two ago. That injected a lot of new extractors into the economy, therefore pushing prices down. And typically what you would expect is if extractor prices go down, injector prices go down as well, because extractors is what you use to create injectors. That was temporary again. What we're seeing now is skill extractors almost back at 500 million again. The equilibrium price that we have seen over the last few months when it bounces back from massive sales, and skill injectors also rising again. So this is a good sign for all skill farmers out there, and it shows that even though there are massive amounts of profits still being made, and when I say massive amounts, let's have a look in skill farming. Right now, about 750 million a month per account if you're subscribing for 12 months buying with Plex. So that's the profit that you're getting there, which is, still quite significant. It's much higher if you're taking advantage of sales, and so it does show that even though there is a profit in skill farming, the skill injectors are still trading quite high, and so there is lots and lots of demand for skill points in EVE Online. The last thing I want to mention is abyssal filaments. Those rose quite sharply. 24% I think is not quite accurate. Just this is spiking hard. What is relevant with abyssal filaments is that we did see cataclysmic firestorms, which is a big chunk of the abyssal markets. We saw those drop down sharply. This is because in the recent balance patch, we saw Triglavian weapons, the disintegrators, lose a little bit of effectiveness. And I think the Ikitursa is not safe now anymore in tier 6 firestorms. That was a typical ship to use in those, a staple, and that is not as viable anymore, and that's why prices for cataclysmic firestorms have dropped, and prices for all, especially chaotic electricals, chaotic gammas, and chaotic exotics have spiked instead. So lots of movement in abyssal space, because that whenever ship balance patches are introduced that impact ships that are running abyssal space, that has a huge impact on the market and the ships being run. Okay, that's the quick market overview, and then let's dive into a little bit more detail. If we look at the Oz report over here, let's start with precursor weapons. Actually, I still wanted to mention those precursor weapons that impacted, that caused a lot of those changes. They're also down in price 8%. So those disintegrator weapons, they are a little bit less effective now. They still have their uses. The ships are still going to be popular. So I think 8% drop in price is, probably the last we will see of it. I don't think that market's going to crash completely, but definitely a clear reaction from the market to this balance patch. Let's look at strategic cruisers next, because it's very, very interesting to see. For this, I'm going to go into the game client. If we look at our quick bar here, we can see, if we look at short supply, we can see that the Proteus and the Tengu, so two strategic cruisers, definitely have increased in price and are much less available than they were before. So if you look at the availability of a Tengu, for example, we saw 70% of Tengus in the market disappear. So 70% of what's usually available of Tengus has been bought up this month, and that's quite significant. If we look at the Proteus only has 0.5 trade days left. So if you want to buy a Proteus, there's only half of what is typically traded on a typical day available in the market, which is quite significant. In turn, if we look on the other side, at the other two strategic cruisers, the the Legion and the Loki, they both are trending down rather sharply. I don't know if I have them on here, but the Legion, for example, you can see here, Legion trending down quite sharply, approaching the 52-week bottom. So lots and lots of movement in there. Not sure, don't think that is hugely balance patch oriented, although you never know, and I'm probably not the best person to ask, but those weren't directly impacted, but I'm sure Twitch chat will help clear that up. Let's quickly talk. We've already talked about hafnium. The hafnium supply was bought up. 65% of the hafnium supply was bought up, probably as a reaction of the Southeastern Agreement ending. We talked about that earlier. And then something else that we also see is Mor Fight. Mor Fight prices are spiking, and Mor Fight supplies are running dangerously low. Now, Mor Fight is something that is used primarily in jump freighters, dreadnoughts, marauders, black ops, so big expensive ships. But also, if you look at some of the more expensive modules, like 25,000 millimeter steel plate 2s, those are made up 74% of Mor Fight. Something like Hexa 2500 millimeter repeating cannon 2s, those are made up of 55% Mor Fight, or even Capital Shield Extender 2s, 47% Mor Fight. Those look for those modules to spike as well, as Mor Fight prices are Rising. Very interestingly, if we look at available sell orders of Mor Fight, yes, there are some big orders left here of 100,000. If you look here, the daily trade volume is around 2 million though, right? If you look at, there are several orders left of 100,000, but there's not even one trade day left under 50,000. So this market could significantly spike if there's a little bit more demand coming from the market, from either investors jumping in on this or the demand from production keeps on rising. So Mor Fight, definitely something to keep your eye on, because this is going to see some action in the next coming days. One other mineral that I want to mention is isogen. We have been talking about isogen quite a bit in the last few weeks and months. If you watch my channel regularly, you probably know that isogen has been a bottleneck in production and has been negatively impacting prices for quite a while. Negatively meaning there is making things very, very expensive. There's been 2 or 3 occasions where CCP has introduced new sources for isogen, or has tried to relax this market a little bit. That seems to be working. It's working slowly, but it is working. So we started the year, or a year ago, prices were around 600. Now we see prices more around 400. That means that stuff like tier 1 battleships, for example, that consist of a lot of isogen, or that are over proportionally impacted by high isogen prices, those are coming down in price, and they should be coming down in price even more as CCP is keeping a close eye on this. And this is not me knowing secret CSM knowledge. This is just me having discussed this for the past year with various people at CCP, even before I was in the CSM, that the isogen bottleneck is certainly negatively impacting the EVO 9 economy. So isogen, something to definitely keep your eye on. Expect it to drop even further, even though it has dropped already by almost a third in price already this year. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is 2 things that seem to be very good buys right now in the market. For one, if we look at underpriced, pyrite is very interesting. Now, pyrite, we can't look at it in the in-game market right now because it's one of those items that has been destroyed by outliers. So let's actually go and look at pyrite on here. There we go. So this is isogen here. What you can see right here, this is the availability of isogen again. So you can see here that the sell order volume is still quite high of isogen. So isogen availability hasn't changed all that much. So it is available on the market, but prices have dropped quite a bit. And so that's a good sign for the EVE economy in my view. So let's switch over to pyrite. As I mentioned, pyrite, on the other hand, let's make this a little larger. Prices also quite low, right? If we look at volumes, the green line right here shows the availability of pyrite. So we have a unique situation with pyrite where we don't have a lot of pyrite available. So there's less than 1 trade day available of pyrite in the market. But at the same time, we also have quite a cheap price of pyrite. So if you look at this in a 52-week comparison, then current prices are closer to the 52-week low, right? So definitely, in my view, a good investment. Pyrite right now, if production does ramp up, if we see isogen coming down a bit more, this is certainly some one raw material to keep an eye on. The other one I want to mention is intact armor plates. Intact armor plates are a salvage material, so it's used in rigs. But let's look at this in game. you know, there's been a lot of influx of intact armor plates, so a lot of these hitting the markets, pushing the prices down. We're now trading close to 52-week low again, and it is a material that is used a lot. It is it comes in spurts though, so there aren't a lot of large-scale producers that use it. So every once in a while, people buy these up in large quantities, and so definitely something that can be bought when it's close to 52-week lows, and can be sold when it's high. So pyrite and large intact armor plates, two things to keep your eye on, and if you want to invest, that would be something that I would be pouring some money into right now. All right, that's it for the odds report for today, and we'll see you guys next Saturday.